Scott Bush is an international speaker and author, and he happens to be president of Bredison and Associates, a global training and coaching company specializing in maximizing performance, increasing productivity, and establishing an effective sales process. Scott, you're out on the West Coast, right? How's it going?
That's right. Things are good. I mean, it's yeah, we've with all the news going on. I mean, they finally opened up the beaches here in LA County, so
What?
we got a lot of beachgoers happy about that. But we're all trying to just follow the rules like everybody else and do what's right and stay as safe as we possibly can.
That's great.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
very I'm very interested in your perspectives in particular. I think you have a unique point of view on this type of thing, on the positive and negative behavioral changes
hmm
that you're observing, that you're seeing in this virtual workforce.
Well, I think, from a positive standpoint, we're going through, those typical stages that a lot of us go through, and that is where whether it be through child development stages, where you go through assimilation, where you're just a sponge right now. You're just trying to take all the information in, do whatever you can to learn and get better,
Mhm,
and really just try to understand what the heck's going on right now.
mhm,
And a lot of us are, going through that based upon, having to change our own business models or just our way of learning and accepting this new norm. And
mhm,
virtual reality is becoming just that. So I think, from the fact that we're looking to learn and get better,
mhm.
from what we had or what skill it was, whatever it may be, is definitely a good thing. And I see that more and more.
Mhm.
On the negative side, I think there's just, and it's no fault of anyone in particular. I think it's just the nature of this environment that the information that we are receiving, most of it obviously right now is being social
Mhm.
media bound and through the news markets. But, I think there's just so much coming at us, whether it be positive or negative, there's just so much that becomes overwhelming.
Right.
So the behavior from the negative standpoint, I think, is just this fear of the unknown. We become so uncertain at this point, and so it's hard for us to make educated decisions based upon the information that's coming our way. So
We,
hopefully,
it's like we don't have the filters, or we don't trust the filters we used to have.
I think that's true. Just because now that we are virtual, some of us, I mean, well, most of us, worked in the brick and mortar type of
Mhm,
environment.
mhm.
Well, we still do, but I mean, now that we're kind of forced into this virtual world, now we almost rely on these extremities.
Right.
They're going to give us this information where it used to be water cooler talk,
Sure.
used to be, our supervisors, the
Right.
company that would feed us this information
Sure.
that would give us just much more confidence and certainty for ourselves. But now, as you said, the filters are starting to get in the way a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where the negative side tends to kind of come into play.
Now, I know that you and your company, you're advocates of assessments, the right types of assessments. Are assessments a relevant thing right now? Are we kind of like in the middle of some type of battle? And when an assessment, a regular everyday assessment, yield abstract results? I mean, do you am I mixing analogies here? Or what would an assessment reveal right now? And is it even a relevant thing to consider right
Well,
now?
there's no doubt it's relevant, Dave. I mean, assessments are relevant now as they were a year ago, as they were 3 years ago and 5 years ago.
Hmm.
We always need to constantly assess in terms of, what happened in the past, what
Hmm.
did we do right? What did we do wrong? What's happening now? How do
Hmm.
we now, move forward and kind of build this roadmap?
Hmm.
And then it's going to be beyond that as to, okay, now that we have an idea based upon the information we are receiving, what are the logical next step that we need to take to be able to, work together?
Hmm.
And so I think the assessments are a big deal. And what's
Hmm.
happening now in terms of how to assess that,
Hmm.
just focus on exactly what it is that you're feeling, that you're doing, that we're
Oh.
not able to do, and start looking for things that we can control, not so much what we cannot control. And I
Yeah.
think through that kind of internal assessment will give us at least a small roadmap that will allow us to understand exactly what we need to do from this point on.
It's interesting that you should mention that because lately I've been listening to certain podcasts and listening to certain audiobooks that are really putting a thumb on the scale for qualitative numbers and data
Mhm.
versus quantitative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The human factor side of all this stuff.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
Without a doubt. Obviously quantitative measures,
Well,
data points, facts, whatever you want to call it, are crucial. but the behavioral side and just kind of where people's mindset, emotions
Yep.
are critical.
Right.
Because we're all going through so many different emotions that we can't even control at this point.
Right.
And I think that type of assessment, whether it be individually or institutionally, is going to be of huge value. Just understand exactly what are we going to do once we get back to this new normal,
Right.
and how do we assess our individuals to ensure that when we do get back on track, that we just we have an understanding that we're all in this together,
Right.
and that we're fighting the same fight, as
Right.
opposed to assess just the numbers, where then you start looking at the top line, as
Yeah.
opposed to people who made you get there.
Yeah. And the final question I have for you is the question I ask everybody, Scott, which is, what lessons are we learning right now that we must not forget?
Loaded.
And
You
go.
know, yeah, I hear and it's a great question. And it's a question we should ask ourselves as much as possible, right? I think the biggest thing, Dave, is that, the beauty about free will and our ability to just, make decisions, based upon what we know, as opposed to based upon the conditions, is that we have a choice every day. And that is, we can have an unbelievable day or an unbearable day. And you and I were talking even before the session started in terms of, how we doing. And it's like,
living the dream.
Living the dream, Scott, and it's like,
Yep.
And it's a great phrase. We've heard it for years, and we talked about the history behind it. But the fact is that, what's the alternative?
Right.
What's the alternative?
Right.
So I think the lesson now is just focus on, as I said earlier, what we can control, and understand that ability to know that we can make decisions because of that free will, to move forward, be positive, do the right thing, and as opposed to worry. And don't get me wrong, these are real, legitimate emotions that everyone's going through right now.
Yeah.
But again, it's like, when we have that choice, why not take the path of being positive and find out what is good about this? Where's the underlying silver lining factor that I can look for? And I think when we do that, we're just, we're starting that path in the right direction.
All right. Next time I'm feeling down, I'm going to give you a call. Okay.
That's great. And by the way, if I may, everything you've been doing at this point, I've been watching all the reboots and everything else. You're doing a fantastic job. You and I have known each other for a while, and I don't want to pump you up here, but I mean, the fact of the matter is that keep it up, Dave. Honestly, doing a great job, and looking forward to seeing more of them.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of the day.
You bet. You too. Take care.